We're excited to announce a new office here in the Oklahoma State Department of Education. That will be the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism. For too long in this country, we've seen the radical left attack individuals' religious liberty in our schools. We will not tolerate that in Oklahoma. Your religious liberties will be protected. We've also seen patriotism mocked and a hatred for this country pushed by woke teachers' unions. We will not tolerate that in any school in Oklahoma.
It should be tolerated in public schools where, public money is sent, and schools should not be teaching prayer or any religion because it's publicly paid for. Anyway, that was the far right Oklahoma superintendent. His name is Ryan Walters, and he's demanding, as you heard in that video, that prayer now be part of the public school system in the state. He's also facing a ton of backlash, luckily, from educators in the state of Oklahoma, as well as the state attorney general. So here's what's happening. I'm sure you've heard of this gentleman before. We've covered stories about him. And Ryan Walters, a far-right Republican, announced the new Department of Religious Freedom and Patriotism within the State Department of Education last Wednesday. Now, Walters says that its purpose is to, quote, oversee the investigation of abuses to individual religious freedom or displays of patriotism, end quote. Now, this is the same guy who mandated that public schools incorporate the Bible into lesson plans for students in grades 5 through 12. He also spent $25,000 in taxpayer money on 500 Lee Greenwood God Bless the USA Bibles, which were also being hawked by Donald Trump. Now look, I actually have a soft spot for Lee Greenwood, and I kind of love him, but we shouldn't be using his Bibles in public schools. Okay, well, that's wrong.
Yeah, so look, I've been proud to be an American for a long time. It's one of the very first songs I put on my iTunes, God knows how long ago, etc. There's nothing wrong with being hokey about those kind of patriotic songs, etc. But that's not what this is about. Trump is making money off that Bible. So that guy is kissing Trump's ass with your taxpayer money. And so that's him auditioning for a national job by literally directing taxpayer money directly into Trump's pocket, not campaign contributions, into his pocket by saying you must order the Bibles that Trump profits off of.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know what? If Jesus Christ was for one thing, it was for other people profiting off of his word. Okay.
I mean, people have been profiting off of Jesus for a long time, okay?
Yeah, the very first people he kicked out of the temple were the money changers, but okay, you do you, boo. But listen, the idea that, then Oklahoma does this all the time, it's hilarious, right? They once banned Sharia law, as if they were about to be taken over by Sharia law, okay? And so this guy's like, oh my God, the left wing has been attacking religion and our identity or whatever he claims in the Oklahoma schools. Have they? Which left wingers are infiltrating the Oklahoma schools?
No, hold on. Religion is not supposed to be taught in public schools. Like, this is not difficult, right? So I support religious liberty, okay? I think that people should have the right to practice their religion. People of faith should be protected. But when it comes to public dollars, they are not supposed to be spent, promoting one religion or another. And I want to be clear. I mean, in this case, obviously, he's promoting Christian religion. If he were an imam and was promoting Muslim religion, I'd be like, no, this is wrong. We should not have this in our public school system. On Thursday, Walter sent an email to school superintendents statewide with his video announcement attached, in which he asked students to pray with him. Take a look.
I will now say a prayer. And to be clear, students, you don't have to join. But if you so wish, I'm going to go ahead and pray. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you've given our country. I pray for our leaders to make the right decisions. I pray in particular for President Donald Trump and his team as they continue to bring about change to the country. I pray for our parents, teachers, and kids that they get the best education possible and live high quality lives. I also pray that we continue to teach love of country to our young people and that our students understand what makes America great and that they continue to love this country. Amen.
And sir, I pray that your grammar is not indicative of the type of education that these kids are getting in these public schools, because his email was like riddled with all sorts of insane grammatical errors. And usually I wouldn't draw any attention to that, but I do find it problematic that he's a superintendent of the public schools in the state of Oklahoma. And rather than focusing on improving the reading, the math scores, the actual curriculum and education that these kids are getting, he's hyper-focused on injecting his religious beliefs into the public school system, which goes against, our constitutional rights. The government is not supposed to promote one religion or another. Okay, so if you have students in the school system who are religious themselves and they are, they want to pray on their own, that's totally fine. But it's something entirely different for the entire education system to push a religion on all the students. So in an email which contained multiple grammatical errors, Walters wrote, "We are in a dangerous time for this country. Students' rights and freedoms regarding religious liberties are continuously under assault." You know what's under assault? The reading comprehension for students, like not just in Oklahoma, but across this country. We have a very real problem, and I'm honestly tired of any group, whether it's on the left or right, politicizing public education in order to implement their own agenda or their own way of thinking. We need to get these kids quality education. That should be our top priority here.
Yeah, so religious liberty doesn't mean that you have everybody do one kind of prayer from one kind of religion, but it's easy to be able to discern that, because you should always do what I ask you guys to do in any political situation. In order to be fair, think about the shoe being on the other foot. So in this case, if it wasn't Christianity, like for example, one of my nephews lived in Oklahoma. Now, reality is we're largely an atheist family, right? But we grew up nominally Muslim, etc. Imagine if he was a teacher or the superintendent and he said, look, I'm for religious liberty, okay? So I'm just gonna ask the students, you don't have to participate, but you do have to send this video to all the students, okay? So let's bow our heads and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He wouldn't even make it past the first sentence, right? All of Oklahoma's heads would explode at the same time.
Was that real? Did you say something real right now?
Yeah, I didn't want to keep going because then it's going to be an actual thing. But anyway, I didn't want to offend the Muslims in doing it in a way that is not authentic. Okay?
Are you guys always aggressive?
No, I just said it that way. You can say it any way you like.
Okay, fair.
You can say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, delightful, but I still don't want it in public schools, right?
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
If you're in Oklahoma and you're Christian, you don't want that in the public schools. So be honest about this, okay? It's not perfectly voluntary. Yes, you can opt out. By the way, I used to opt out of some things in school back in the day, but I'd always get the stink eye, right? And you don't want the kids getting the stink eye.
Exactly, right? It takes a lot for a student, especially in grade school, to take a stand and say, no, I'm not gonna go along. Most students are gonna go along to get along, even if it's not their religion. That's why this is just, it doesn't belong in the public school system, guys. Again, freedom of religion is important. So if you have religious students who want to pray, if you have Muslim students, because I know some Muslim students pray multiple times a day, that's totally fine. That's on them to make the decision. But when it's being pushed onto the students, when it's being promoted by the educators or the superintendent, that's when you have an issue. Now look, luckily there are some local student superintendents who are pushing back on this. At least 7 Oklahoma school districts have said that they have no intention of showing this video. A spokesperson for the state attorney general said in a statement, there is no statutory authority for the state schools superintendent to require all students to watch a specific video. Not only is this edict unenforceable, it is contrary to parents' rights, local control, and individual free exercise rights. But Walters is refusing to back down. In fact, here he is being incredibly defiant during an interview on CNN earlier today.
As you know, your state's attorney general's office says you don't have the authority for this mandate to play that prayer video. So what authority do you have to mandate schools to show your prayer video where you also pray for President-elect Trump?
Look, I've continued to hear the gaslighting from the left, and frankly, even from this network, pushing lies about what's going on across America. President Trump has a clear mandate. He wants prayer back in school. He wants radical leftism out of the classroom, wants our kids to be patriotic, want parents back in charge with school choice.
I'm not going to take the bait on what you said about gaslighting from this network on this. I'm asking you a specific question. Where is your authority specifically coming from? As you know, thousands of people, including parents who signed a petition to impeach you with more than 14,000 signatures at last check, say this is government overreach and you're taking control away from local parents, local school boards and parents over their kids. What do you say to that, and where is your authority coming from to enforce this prayer video to be played in schools?
You know, I appreciate you pushing that left-wing narrative here, but here's the reality.
It's not a left-wing narrative. I'm literally talking about a petition that parents have signed that's gotten more than 14,000 signatures that have raised this issue.
It's pretty clear on religious liberty. The Constitution's crystal clear on religious liberty.
All right. Well, he went on to claim that the people criticizing him for essentially mandating Bibles in public schools are the same people who, quote, want radical gender pornography in the classroom.
My kids are in public schools. I do not want any pornography, let alone radical pornography.
Radical gender pornography.
So who is that? Is that the Bruters? Okay, don't go German in the schools, okay? This is absurd. This is not an issue. Oklahoma is perfectly Christian. You're gonna be fine. Your kids are gonna get plenty of Bible at home, at church, etc.
Yeah.
You just don't use it in the government because, okay, which Bible, by the way? You say Lee Greenwood's. Well, how about the Presbyterians? How about the Lutherans? How about the Pentecostals? Okay, should they bring their snakes in?
No, don't do that.
Okay, should they speak in tongues? I mean, what are we doing here? This is absurd, and you know it's absurd. This is all, look at me, Daddy, look at me, Donald Trump. I'll be the religious zealot you want. I'll get you money that you want. It's pathetic.
They did used to pray in public schools in the 60s. But that was wrong, and I'm glad that that doesn't happen anymore. Finally, just want to remind you all of what our Constitution says. This is the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The students are free to pray on their own terms, feeling pressured by educators or the superintendent to do so or to follow a specific religion. That goes against the Constitution. Go ahead, Cenk.
And I just thought of something in the middle of the story. So, you know, my football coach from high school actually was involved in a national story we covered a couple of times because he would do a prayer, and I was not religious at the time, but I didn't care because he just prayed for people's health, and I used to defend him on that. But you know, it's funny. Somebody brought up as I was doing that story one time, they said, you know, are you the coach didn't like me, and I think there's a couple of different reasons why he might not have liked me, but I was, you know, we were a nationally ranked high school team, which means we were pretty good, okay? And this is hilarious, but honorable mention to all county. The honorable mention part makes it so funny. Anyways, my point is,
it's very Al Bundy of you to mention.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, and then look, I became a great shoe salesman. Anyways, no, seriously, guys. The reason I mentioned that is I asked him to recommend me to the Columbia football team, which had not won in a decade at that point. And he said no. So why am I bringing that up now? So there's no real reason to say no to a pretty good player that would go to an awful team. There's just no reason, right? But I realized in the middle of the story, hey, wait a minute, now I'll never know. I'll never know if it's just because he didn't like me or I hit him once in practice. He put on pads. He said, you could hit me, so I did. Okay, it could have been that I was a nerd and he doesn't like nerds. But now I'm not sure that it was because I didn't participate in the prayers. Maybe that's why he held a grudge against me. And just the very fact that a kid could have that question is why you shouldn't force prayers and Bibles and religion in a school. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.